Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Benchwarmers Podcast. In this week's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Bradford Park Avenue Academy Manager Thomas McStravick. Thomas, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Sorry, is it Thomas or Tom that you prefer to be called?
It's either or, really. Sometimes you get Tom, sometimes you get Thomas. So I probably prefer Tom just because it's quicker.
Yeah, well, we'll go with Tom then. But I think we'll start off then by sort of discussing Bradford Park Avenue because that's where you are right now. Am I right if you're actually the head of youth development there?
Yeah, my role is head of youth development academy manager. So my remit is 5-year-olds right through to 18-year-olds at the football club. So everything below the first team is really my responsibility.
Yeah. So say any Bradford Park Avenue under 18 games that you might have, are you in charge of sort of the management side of things?
Yeah, so at the moment, not at the moment because of COVID, but up until COVID, I was coaching the scholars at the football club. So that's our full-time education and football program. So I was coaching them as well as overseeing the academy from 6 to 16s, if you like. Yeah, so I was involved on a day-to-day coaching basis with the players.
And as a player yourself, you've spent a lot of time playing football in Northern Ireland. You've been a first-team coach in Northern Ireland. What do you sort of find the difference between adult football and youth football when it comes to the actual game side of things?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, I mean, the first one that jumps out at you, youth football is about development. It's about getting players, first and foremost, to fall in love with the game. And then you look at success. What is success at youth football? Is it to play professional, semi-professional football? Is it to play football at any level? Because we know the stats, there's a massive amount of players that are involved in the game currently that don't play the game at any level by the time they get to 18. So, it depends how you determine and how you define success, really. So for me, youth football fundamentally is just about getting kids to fall in love with the game. And then after that, how I define success is to really make sure that the players reach a level that they're capable of, whether that be Sunday League football, whether that be semi-professional, professional football, whatever that may be. As long as they reach their potential, I think that's success.
Yeah, and you mentioned players reaching their potential there. We've seen the likes of Jamie Lyons, Jacob Fawcett sort of be involved in the first team setup. And did you ever actually train them? Because I think you've only sort of recently joined in 2020.
Yeah, so the two boys are involved in the scholarship program, and again, this is where the sort of crossover between sort of youth football, youth development football into sort of senior football comes into it, because these boys are 16, 17, 18 years of age, and they're at that crossroads, if you like, between youth football and adult football. And with both Jacob and Jimmy, they've had a taste of being around the men's first team. Which is, of course, very different. It's all about results and outcome focused. And of course, my job is to try and get players into the first team, but not just get them into the first team, make them competitive and make an impact in the first team. So, it's not, I don't see it as a success if we get a player from our academy who trains the first team and maybe plays 1 or 2 games or maybe plays for a season. If they don't progress and if they don't make an impact at that level and then move on to a higher level, then for me, we haven't really done our job. So if we have a player that comes from our academy into our first team and then drops down the levels,
yeah,
I don't think we've done our job, really. So, yeah, again, if you look at the difference between youth football and adult football, it's a very outcome focused and results based, and we need to prepare the players as best as we possibly can to be able to cope with that different environment, that pressurized environment, because you look at, if a player comes into our club at 5 years of age, for example, his development plan looks very different than what it will do than when he's 16. So at 5 years of age, come in, it's about developing his skills, technique, confidence on the ball, being able to use both feet, understand the game, at that level, and then progress right through to 16s where you're starting to prepare them for first team football, where it's a little bit more results focused, and to prepare them for that environment.
Yeah, and I think in the next few days I'll be talking to Luca Haven or Havern from the Bradford Academy first team. You've got a lot of players in that first team, like Mark Ross, who's played in National League level. You've got a lot of very experienced players in that first team. So do you think it helps Jacob and Jamie's development by being alongside those sort of experienced players who've had a lot longer in the game?
There's no doubt that it can be a massive benefit to those players. However, they've got to grab the opportunity when it comes. I mean, if they're in that environment and they're not working hard enough away from the club, if they're not, putting the work in, putting the effort in while they're there, then they're not grasping that opportunity. There's no doubt that being around players who have played at a higher level for a sustained period of time is of a massive benefit, and we're quite fortunate at the club to have those types of players, but also players like Nicky Clee, who's played at this level for a long time and is still excelling at this level, and also players who have came through professional academies. So you've got Lewis Knight, you've got Isaac Marriott, you've got you've got other players as well, Matty Downing, for example, who have all came through Leeds and Huddersfield and have been in that academy environment. And then, of course, they're having to step into first team level, albeit at National League North. But it's a big eye-opener, and it's a big opportunity for our academy players, the likes of Jacob and Jamie and others who will be hopefully stepping in time to learn from those people and those different experiences. But like I say, the fundamental thing is, for me, if they don't grasp that opportunity, then it's a massive disappointment from the players' point of view, and also from our point of view, because we want the players to be successful.
Yeah, and I think it also helps with the training sort of how they're playing a 3G pitch, because obviously weather can't call or anything like that. So, but as someone like yourself who's played, I imagine you played on grass pitches. You've probably at Leeds United when you were a youth coach. I'm guessing they played on grass pitches as well. Do you find it sort of like any more difficult to coach than playing on 3G pitches, because maybe it's a bit more risky towards injuries and things like that? Do you find it any more difficult?
Yeah, there's a debate around this, obviously, with 4G pitches and the pros and cons. And obviously, when you move into the Football League setup, your first team pitch can't be an artificial pitch. It has to be grass. Look, there's no getting away from the fact that you just can't beat grass, but it has to be grass of a high level. It has to be maintained properly, invested in properly. Otherwise, it's not conducive to good quality football. Like we've seen at Leeds United, even the first team pitch, they spent 300,000 to replace the surface because it wasn't fit for purpose. So grass is great. It's fantastic. It's absolutely the best, but only if it's of a high standard. And at our level, and particularly with the weather that we get here in Bradford seems to have its own climate, to be honest with you, and especially at the Horsefall. So the 4G pitch is a massive asset for us. There's no doubt about it. It's the perfect solution for us. It provides our academy players from 5 right through to 18 a fantastic facility to train on, to play on, and it helps us to create a positive quality 5-star environment for everybody to be around. And from our first team perspective, I mean, it's great. They can play good football. They can play it out from the back when they need to, and it just gives them sort of wider options to be able to grow on. And then the bigger picture for us is we're trying to create an identity, and we've got our DNA that that all of our teams will be working from and working towards. We want our players to be comfortable on the ball, being able to use both feet, to be dominating in 1v1s, both offensively and defensively, and to play it out as and when we can. And a 4G pitch is perfect for us to be able to do that.
So I also imagine that the first team also trains in this 4G pitch. So how do you go about sort of scheduling when each team trains? Because obviously if you've got age groups from 5 to 18, whatever it was, that's a lot of different teams, a lot of different age groups. So how do you sort of balance it between when people train?
So at this moment in time, we're quite fortunate in that we have the use of the facilities as and when we need it, really. So all our scholars can train morning, afternoon, for example. So there's times when we've done double sessions, so come in the morning, do their session, have a bit of lunch, and then train again in the afternoon, for example. We've had days when we've had double games and stuff. So, we've been quite fortunate that way. As we grow and as we move to the next stage of our plan, it's going to become more difficult in terms of, finding that space, because obviously we're not the only users of the pitch, which is great. I mean, it's a community facility and it's used by the wider community, which is fantastic because it gets people in through the door, it gets people into the Bradford Park Avenue environment, which is great. But at the moment, we're quite fortunate. Like, our academy teams train on a Monday and a Wednesday evening. We typically have the pitch from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And with our program being very highly technical focused at this moment in time, it's quite easy to fit our current teams in. But like I say, there will be a need as we grow, because we're getting a lot of interest in our academy at the moment. A lot of people are starting to talk about what we're doing. For example, we're really professionalizing what we do both on and off the pitch. And there's a host of really positive, exciting stuff that's happening. So there's going to be a huge demand. So that's something that we'll have to look at, obviously, as we progress. Hopefully in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and you mentioned a plan there as well. So when joining Bradford Park Avenue, did you set out a sort of plan about how you wanted to take the academy to the next level?
To be honest with you, the club already had a 5-year plan, and that's kind of what appealed to me. They had a vision, they had a plan. They're very clear. It was very straightforward. It was very, it was laid out really, really well. The club was led by Martin Knight, our director of football. And the early conversation I had with Martin was, very honest and very straight to the point. And I like that, to be honest with you. There's a lot of scope within that for me to develop our academy and grow it. And, and of course the path will twist and change as we go along, but the end goal remains the same. We know where we want to be at the end of year 5, at the end of the plan. At the end of year 1, we know exactly where we want to be, but of course there's going to be little changes along the way. But yeah, like I say, that's the thing that really attracted me to the club, was that they had a vision, they have a plan. It's realistic. It's not, pie in the sky stuff. It's, it's achievable, of course. And we're all working on the same plan, on the same goal. We're working together to try and achieve that.
Yeah, and so also at the club, imagine that you've got like your own sort of youth coach team. So who have you actually got alongside you?
Yeah, so we've got 3 of the boys from the first team who are in coaching the academy players at the moment. Okay. So we've got Matty Downing, Lewis Knight, and Isaac Marriott. So it's great to have first team players in around the environment, coaching the young players coming through. Gives them good examples to look up to. Plus, those guys are good, young, hungry coaches as well. So they want to be, carving out a career in the game, primarily, from a playing perspective, but also, if that doesn't work out for them, or if they do have a good playing career then after, then, from a coaching perspective, they've got something to fall back on. So that's a great asset to us, is the 3 boys from the first team. We also have James Ritchies. James is employed by the FA in his full-time job. And James's role in the FA is from a mentoring perspective. So he goes into schools and mentors teachers, coaches at professional club foundations, like the Leeds United, for example, foundation. He would go in and provide CPD support towards their coaches. So James is in on a coach development type role. So he's in charge of helping the coaches, helping the managers, really align themselves to the club's DNA and the philosophy and the pathway that we're taking. And then, of course, we've got other coaches that we've brought in. So we've got Chaz Mann, for example. Chaz has got previous experience at Bradford City Academy, and he's also currently working at Leeds United Academy as well. So Chaz is in with ourselves to do some coaching with the older age groups, which is a great asset to us. Chaz he lives locally. He's a PE lead in a local school, etc. as well. So great asset for us to provide a real good quality level of coaching.
Yeah, and staying on the topic of coaching then, what coaching badges do you actually have?
Yeah, I've got a UFA license. Got the FA Youth Award as well. I started out quite early in my coaching journey. I started coaching when I was 16, while I was still playing. And then kind of coaching overtook the playing aspect for me. I kind of started to enjoy it more. So I started on my coaching pathway in terms of qualifications quite early on. Done my first coaching qualification when I was 16, and then it slowly progressed into doing your level 1s, your level 2s, and then finally onto the license. So that has been a great journey for me to, first and foremost, to learn more about coaching, about the game. And then, coaching courses give you a fantastic opportunity to meet other people that are working at various different levels within the game. So getting to meet people who are working at grassroots level and the challenges and struggles that they face, which is great for me now in my current role, working with our coaches and managers and stuff. It gives me a good perspective, but also the other side of it is, you do meet people who are working in the full-time game and professional level at the highest level, and it gives you the opportunity to kind of tap into their knowledge and mindset as well. So it gives you a sort of a well-rounded view. It's not an easy journey by any stretch of imagination. Like, I was sitting here telling you lies if I was saying that when you go through those courses, it's all rosy. It's not. You do a session and it might not go according to plan. It builds a resilience, and you need to find a way to get yourself back up again and get on the journey again. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Would you have any sort of advice then for any younger people who might be trying to get into coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, you have to enjoy it. My thing is, life is too short, and if you're not enjoying something, in my opinion, don't do it. So I enjoyed coaching, from the offset. I enjoyed it, and I'm lucky enough now to be employed in football full time. And I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life, really, to be honest with you. So, from that side of it, if you enjoy it, do it, commit to it. So you have to commit to it. You have to do a lot of work. You have to do a lot of voluntary hours, a lot of stuff maybe that you might not want to do. You might need to coach at different age groups, different levels. So you have to be really, really committed and passionate about it. And then, of course, you need to be humble. You see, in my opinion, you see a lot of coaches now who maybe, go one way or the other with that. Maybe they don't back themselves enough and don't believe in themselves enough. Or, they might maybe forget where their roots have came from and where they started off in their journey. And like, none of us started off as a high quality, professional coach. We simply didn't. I think back to some sessions that I've done in the past, and you say to yourself, "Oh my goodness, what was I doing?" And even recently, I look back to some sessions that I've done over the last few years, and you say to yourself, I maybe wouldn't do that again. I maybe completely change that, or might tweak it a little bit. And so for me, it's about being committed, loving it, being passionate about it, and then being humble.
Yeah, definitely. And so this is a bit of a more relevant topic then to, nowadays, especially with everything going on with the National League North. But how has COVID-19 affected things in terms of player development? Have you found it hard to coach players? Obviously, you've got social distance and clean. I did a bit of coaching for Didakix, which is like this sort of company where after every session we'd have to spray down the footballs and just clean everything. So how you found COVID-19 sort of affected things?
Yeah, look, the long-term impact remains to be seen. However, it is a worry. That young players in their key stages of their development. So from 5 and 6 to 12s, for example, are missing out in training and playing games. That's a massive concern, and they have done pretty much over the last 12 months. However, in my opinion, it gives them an opportunity to look at other aspects of the game, so to focus heavily on the technical side of it. So you could argue that it's given players more time to work on their movement with the ball, the relationship with the ball, manipulating the ball, being able to use both feet, being able to strike the ball with both feet. And you could argue that it's given them more time to do that. However, listen, nothing beats playing the game and training with your mates and all that type of stuff. I've talked here about the sort of technical aspect, but there's a psychological impact here. Kids have missed out on so much social time and been able to play football with their mates and enjoy it and have fun, and they've missed out on that. So it does remain to be seen. It has been difficult. We've tried to make the most of it. We've done a lot of online stuff. I'm trying to engage players online as much as possible. What we have found is not a lot of people enjoy that side of it. They prefer face-to-face contact or to be involved in a physical training session. But we just have to adapt. It's like everything, we have to overcome, and we will do. I'm sure. Kids are very resilient. They'll soon get back into the swing of things. And the quicker we get back to training and playing again, the better, really, for everybody's sake.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned online, being online as well there. You've not had a history in teaching, have you, or anything like that?
No, I haven't. Teaching for me was something that I did consider for a while, for quite some time, actually. I went from thinking about going into teaching to going into lecturing at a college or university to almost sort of leaving that side of it for a while and just focusing more on the coaching side of things and the strategy side of football and developing projects and stuff like that. So teaching for me is not something that I've gone into. However, there's a massive crossover between teaching and coaching. Massive crossover. First of all, you're providing knowledge and support towards young people to develop in football. And that requires having an understanding of how different people learn, the different types of learners, different types of communicating and interacting with young people to get the best out of them. So there is a massive crossover, and a lot of the things that teachers do, we can actually learn from as coaches, in terms of the detail of the planning that they go into, the evidence-based stuff that they look at. And that's something that we could be doing more in football, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. In a previous podcast as well, where I talked to Mark Bower, the Bradford Park Avenue manager, he praised the Park Avenue sort of youth setup and how younger players are coming into the first team. So praising you, obviously. So what is your relationship like with Mark Fenn, saying, because obviously you'll be making the younger players who can go into his squad. So you kind of just helping him out, really.
Yeah, look, Mark's brilliant. Very talented individual, obviously, given his playing background, but also, his management background. He's done really well at this level, and I feel he's got a real bright future ahead of him in the game. So Mark has been superb for me personally and for us as an academy, because first and foremost, he's been there to support. For example, we had our trial day for our scholarships on the 21st of December. And Mark was there for the full day. It was a full day's activity, from 8:30 in the morning right through to 4:00 in the afternoon. And he was there for the full day. He sat in on some meetings with parents, etc. as well. So yeah, Mark's been a massive help. Luke, there's no doubt that the pandemic has certainly slowed down a lot of progress, a lot of things that we can be doing together. However, it's a really exciting journey ahead between the first team and the academy. And we're quite fortunate in a way as a football club that we don't have a massive budget. I know Mark would probably sit here and tell you that he'd want more of a budget, which is natural for managers to do. But from my side of it, it's great because it puts more of an emphasis and more of an importance on the academy, if you like, and it gives me a little bit more room to be, attracting players to this club, because we do have a pathway. We've got a real pathway, a genuine pathway, because we've got simply no other choice. We can't be going out and buying players at this level. We can't be offering massive wages to players, so we need to be promoting from within. And from that perspective, it's been great, and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. I was sort of pushed back into 2013, where you first sort of went into your whole youth coaching career, where you became head of youth development at, is it pronounced Glenavon?
Glenavon Football Club.
Yeah. So how did that opportunity come around? Because obviously, like you said, you're doing coaching from a very young level, but I think you were playing for St Mary's back then as well. See, I've done my research, but
no, you have.
How did the opportunity sort of come around?
So I started my coaching career at my local club in Portadown, Northern Ireland, St Mary's Football Club. And St Mary's Football Club is a combination between a youth club and a football club and a senior club. So started my coaching journey at St Mary's. Absolutely loved it. Very fortunate to be able to do it. And I was there for 2 or 3 years. I went to Glenavon for a year to do some coaching, and then I went to America for a summer. And then when I came back, I'd obviously have my own project to be focusing on and coaching within. But then also, I had the opportunity that came up to take charge at Glenavon, their academy program. So when I first went into the club, they pretty much didn't really have a setup under 16s, if you like. They had one team, I think it was under 12s. But nothing below under 12s, and nothing 13s, 14s, 15s. They had really good under 16s. They had a decent under 18s team at the time, and then obviously reserves and first team. So my remit was to go into the club, and I knew the manager, who's still manager to this day, is Gary Hamilton, and I knew one of the directors at the club as well. I knew the outgoing academy manager, and he put my name forward for the role. So I interviewed for the role, and yeah, really enjoyed it. My remit was to build a structure from 5 and 6 years of age right through, and we as a team managed to make a massive impact on that. And it's a really good academy, a thriving academy at the minute, which is great to see. And there's a lot of people who I actually brought into the club back then who are still there. Some of them progressed through to taking on management roles within the academy structure, and some of them are coaching within the sort of higher end, the sharper end of it, if you like. So it was a really good learning experience for me in a leadership type role, to take on the academy director's role at a big club in Ireland, massive club, Glenavon, massive potential, absolutely fantastic facilities, and some really, really good people at the football club as well. So really good learning curve for me. Went from there to take on a senior role at Armagh City Football Club, working with the first team. Used to play at Armagh City for a few years, and that was my connection at Armagh. I knew the manager. Manager phoned me up to see if I'd be interested, and I went for it. It was a voluntary role. And again, like I say, you have to make sacrifices and a commitment and be passionate about it and back yourself. And for me, it was a great opportunity to get in and coach players at that level, which is the second tier in Northern Ireland at the time. The club were going well. Marty had done a really good job. My job was to come in and coach the first team, quite simply to look after the training, to complement what the manager was doing, and work alongside him. And we had a lot of success. Certainly not down to me, not by any stretch of imagination. The first team manager and his assistant had done a great job assembling a really good squad. But for me, it was a good learning curve.
Sorry, just quickly nipping back to the to Glenavon. you mentioned as well there how you've seen some people who you brought into the club go into like youth management sort of roles. So as a head of youth development, is it your responsibility to maybe find managers for, say, like an under-18s team and under-16s team, or is it you who just like manages all of them?
So at Glenavon, the 18s and the reserve team was under the management or control, if you like, of the first team environment, the main club.
Okay.
My role was everything from 16s below. So from 16s right down to your 5 and 6 year olds at the club. So my role was to find coaches, appoint coaches into certain roles and develop and create a structure for people coming through. And like at Bradford Park Avenue, my role is 18s and below. So everything from 5 year old right through to the 18s to appoint coaches, managers, develop the structure, etc., etc.
Yeah. And then obviously the move came to Leeds United. Was it difficult to move from Northern Ireland to England?
It came at a difficult period in my life, if I'm being honest with you. I was really enjoying my role at Armagh City, loving it, and then a personal event happened, as things do in life. My marriage broke down, and then I was out of football for a few weeks, and then a call came up from St Mary's to say, look, would you be interested in our first team manager's role? And you know what? I've seen it as a really good opportunity for me to develop my management experience, and it was a great learning curve. I think the club had 2 points or something from however many games it was. It was just after Christmas when I went into the club, and it was a really good opportunity for me to get involved in management. And my commitment was to stay in that role. However, like things do happen in football, things change, and I got a call from a good friend of mine, who now works at Manchester City, but he's a massive Leeds United fan. Worked at the club for over 12 years, and he called me up to say, look, there's a role going at Leeds, would you be interested, etc., etc. My personal circumstances, like I say, had changed, so there was nothing holding me back. So I said, yeah, why not? Let's go for it. Let's see what happens. So I went over, done an interview, and thankfully got the role, and never really looked back since. It's been the best thing ever happened. I've got a 2-year-old little daughter now who keeps me on my toes. And the move to Leeds was absolutely brilliant for me.
Yeah, and obviously Leeds have got one of the most prestigious youth academies in the country, debatably. So who are sort of like the best players that you've seen come through at Leeds? Well, since you've gone there.
Yeah, so look, this is my fourth season at the club. I've been working on the 13s and under 14s throughout that time. Really enjoyed it. Was fortunate to spend a few weeks with the 18s on a observation type role. So I was in just observing what the coaches and management were doing, to learn from them really, and just to pick up tips and how they done things. And Mark Jackson was the manager, Billy Russell was the assistant, and then he had Neil Sullivan as well. And it was a fantastic learning experience for me, just to spend a few weeks, just really just into seeing. And that time they had players who were coming through and they were doing really well and they won the league. And and there's some players in that setup that are playing in the first team now. You've got like Jamie Shackleton, you've got Jack Clark who moved to Spurs, for example. And it was a really sort of talented group. Charlie Cresswell, who's now in the first team setup, Niall Huggins is in the first team setup, and they were all really, really good players. I didn't have obviously anything to do with their development at all, but just being able to watch them and see them train, play, was a real pleasure, really. And then look, there's loads of players coming through Leeds. They're a fantastic academy at every age group. You can name players who are really talented, and have got a real chance. And that's the fortunate position that the club are in, given the size of the club, of course. that's what you would expect from a club like Leeds United. But it's just, for me personally speaking, it's just great to be involved in that setup, even still, and to be around it every day, really.
Yeah, and obviously when you went there, they won the Championship and not becoming quite frustrated with that position. So obviously now they've stepped into the Premier League, and I'm Bradford City fan, so I'm not too pleased by it. But obviously working with the club, how happy were you when the club got promoted?
Oh, look, listen, I mean, I'm a lifelong Leeds United fan myself. I supported the club all my life. My dad supports the club. You know, I've got a family history in Leeds through my mum's side. And, you know, I've been coming over to Leeds from a really young age. I can still remember my first game, which wasn't a pleasant experience, getting beat 3-0, but albeit I'm still a Leeds fan. So for the club to get promoted, you know, it was like we thought it was just never going to happen, because we've been out of the Premier League and in the Championship and League One for 16 years. And I'm only 32, and that's a large period of my life. And I never thought we'd see it, because look, we've gone through owner after owner, turmoil after turmoil. And then we finally, you know, got somebody who had a real vision and plan for the club and was willing to stick by that plan and that vision and invest in it and believe in it and get everybody else to believe in it. And finally we managed to get into the Premier League. A little bit disappointing that we couldn't be there to celebrate it, you know, with the fans and everything and the whole buzz around the place. But still, nonetheless, still a brilliant thing to be able to see. And it coincides with the development of the academy over the last few years. You know, there's been, you know, a lot of changes. We're now Category 1 status, for example. You know, and there's been a lot of investment in the facilities, and you know, it's just a club hopefully on the up anyway. I think it is, obviously, and long may it continue.
Yeah. Out of curiosity as well, who's your favourite Leeds player?
Got a few, difficult to pinpoint, and few for different reasons. You know, if you look at some players who, like say Calvin Phillips, for example, who only came into academy football when he was 14 or 15 or whatever it was, and playing grassroots football for his local club, and for him now to be reaching the heights that he's reaching, you know, playing for England, playing for Leeds in the Premier League, and being a really integral part of the team. You know, you have to admire him for that, really. You know, and even like Liam Cooper, who, you know, played, you know, came from Chesterfield, I think it was, and to, you know, to work his way up to being captain of the club in the Premier League. It's a great example. But for me, Stewart Dallas for me is one that you just have to just say, wow, what a journey, because to come from playing Irish League football, part-time football, to be written off at that level as well at one stage, to then excelling at that level, to then getting a move to Bradford, to doing really well there, and then to be moving to Leeds. And it took him a while to, I think, sort of settle into Leeds. But my goodness, how good has he been this season in the Premier League for Leeds, and last season obviously in the Championship? And he's just the typical sort of example that you want to use for young players, somebody who just works exceptionally hard, who just gets on with their job, no moaning, no complaining, doesn't moan at referees, gets up, gets on with it, and he's done a really good job. So he for me is probably the best example. But if you asked in terms of player I like to watch the most, Pablo Hernandez, although he hasn't had much time on the pitch this season, but fantastic player to watch. But I'm quite liking Rafinha at the moment. I think he's
that little turn he did the other week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's somebody who obviously everybody's talking about at the minute, but it's great to see a player like that at Leeds after so long. You know, you can go back to Harry Kewell and Alan Smith and you know, Lee Bowyer and players like that, who last time Leeds were in the Premier League really excited you. But Rafinha for me is just different class.
Yeah. We'll sort of move on to your playing career then. There's not really much that I can find it, to be honest, other than, well, it's a weird question, but have you ever played Football Manager?
No, I think I did quite a few years ago, but you're talking 10 plus years ago.
Yeah, well, they rate you very highly in there as a head of youth development. But obviously, that talks about your entire Northern Irish sort of playing career as well in there. What is your sort of favourite memory from your playing career?
So it's quite mixed, really, to be honest. Coming through as a young player, played in my local team in Portadown, and really loved my football, like hopefully every young player does. Played in the Milk Cup, which is a Super Cup now, Super Cup NI, which is worldwide known. And a fantastic opportunity. I then got a move after the Milk Cup. I think it was under 14s then. I was 14 and got a move after to Portadown Football Club, where I played in the reserve team when I was 14. So I played between the reserves and the 18s for 2 or 3 years. Really enjoyed it. It didn't quite, played in the first team. I played a first team game, a pre-season game, and around the sort of training environment for a while and stuff. And then I made a move to Loughgall, and I absolutely loved it. It was a great learning environment for me. A little bit unfortunate in how it panned out, really. So again, was still eligible to play. I played 18s, made my first team debut. I played in the 18s on a Wednesday evening in the Youth Cup against Linfield, away from home. Got man of the match in the game. The first team manager was then sacked, and then the reserve team manager took over, and I got called up into the first team for that Saturday to play Linfield at Windsor Park. I wasn't expecting to come on at all, but I came on, I think, after 10, 15 minutes in the game. The left back got injured. Played in the game. I felt I played really well, and things were looking really positive. And then in the space of a few days, things completely changed. Went into training on the Tuesday evening. The manager said to me, you'd done really, really well on Saturday. We were playing Portadown on the Friday evening at home in the Premier League, which was great. I was looking forward to it, getting to play against my old club, etc., etc. And then he said, you can't play. Unfortunately, you can't play. And I said, why? And there was a registration issue, basically. So I had to, that was in November. I had to wait until January before I could be eligible to play in the first team again. Disappointing, yes, but you know what? It didn't affect me too much. A new manager then came in and took me under their wing, really. As soon as I was eligible to play for the first team again in January, I played. And I picked up an injury in my first game back. I picked up an ankle ligament injury, so I was out for 8 weeks. Then it took me a little bit of time to get back into the swing of things. I did come back into the first team again. Played in the first team. Loved it again. Loved my football there. Then that summer, I'd pre-arranged to go to America to coach.
Yeah.
And then a new manager came in, and so I missed the whole of pre-season. New manager came in with different ideas. I wanted to bring in more experienced players to play a different type of football, different brand of football. And it is what it is, It didn't get into the team. Had to go out on loan, went out to Armagh City on loan. Armagh City, a great club that it is. I just didn't enjoy it. Didn't enjoy playing reserve team football again. In round first team squads and that, but at the time I got the bit between my teeth. I wanted to play. In hindsight, probably should have been a wee bit more patient. Probably should have been a wee bit more patient because I was still young, but I thought it was good enough to play in the first team environment. And then it never really happened for me after that, to be honest with you. I went on loan to a non-league team effectively in Dunmurry. Annie United, had a little spell there, played in the first team there for a bit, but I was never really the same player, to be honest with you. I was never in the right headspace. I didn't work hard enough. I felt the world owed me a favour, really. I felt sorry for myself because of, getting injuries and registration issues and this and that or whatever, but never enjoyed football again. To be honest with you, but look, I've no regrets. I look back, I really enjoyed it. I don't miss playing at all. I say I got stuck into the coaching, and I've really enjoyed it, so I'm happy.
What position were you?
I was a left back by trade.
Right.
I left full back. I like to get forward. I like to support the attack. I like to, get crosses in. I like to get on the ball and play. Always wanted to get the ball from the keeper and play from there. But yeah, like I say, never really look back on it. Just look forward.
Yeah. And then in 2011, I kind of like structured this entire podcast a bit weirdly because we've gone from 2020 to 2013 to when your playing career started, and then back up to 2011. But in 2011, if I'm right in thinking, you registered the Playing for the Future Academy, which is sort of based in Belfast and Lurgan in Northern Ireland. So what made you want to start your own youth academy?
So we actually started the whole project in 2009 as a cross-community football tournament over a period of 12 weeks with teams in from different communities in Northern Ireland come in over a 12-week period to play and train and do other activities. And then snowballed into doing tournaments, and then a snowball then into having our own academy setup. So we started a technical skills academy, where we had some really good players come through. One of them in particular is playing now at a pro club over here, under 16 level. And then it kind of progressed forward. We registered as a community interest company in 2011, again with the fundamental goal of bringing people together from different backgrounds. I was quite fortunate that football gave me the opportunity to play with people from different religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, etc. And not everybody had that opportunity. So I wanted to be able to use football as a way of educating people and helping people and creating opportunity for people. So that's really how it all started, and it still remains. I say we're really in a really strong position, at this moment in time. We've got our academy in Lurgan, Belfast. We've got a summer camp in Galway, in the Republic of Ireland. We've got partner clubs throughout Northern Ireland and in New Zealand and in the Republic of Ireland as well. So it's gone from strength to strength, really. We have the Belfast Youth Cup under our banner in partnership with Ulster University. The Belfast Cup, its first year was 2019 with Leeds United over, Sheffield United, Hibs from Scotland, all the sort of major clubs from Northern Ireland and the Republic all sort of take part in it. So it's kind of just grew, really, and just gone from strength to strength.
Yeah, and one name that I noticed you've got sort of in the whole coaching stuff is Thomas Stewart, who played for Wolves, Shamrock Rovers, Partick Thistle, Dundalk. How did he sort of get involved with it?
Yeah, so Thomas is from Portadown, so he's another Portadown, born and bred, if you like. Good lad, kind of know people through the circuit, through the football circuit. So just conversations just evolved, really, to get him involved in our programme. Like we have done with a few other people, sort of high-profile names in Northern Ireland football, like Darren Murphy, he's got a UEFA Pro licence, Keith O'Hara, UFA licence, Ryan Prentice, UFA licence, who used to coach at the Manchester United Academy in Northern Ireland for years. So we've got a really strong, solid base of people who's working for us.
Yeah, and I also noticed this just looking at the sort of academy actual page on the website, but in the administration role, John McStravick, is that your brother?
That's my dad, actually. Yeah, that's my dad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he's a great help for us. Just great help. Obviously, he's on the ground. I'm over in England, so he can keep on top of things and get involved in things, and he really enjoys it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also going back to how you mentioned having connections in New Zealand as well. How do you go about finding these connections where you can just message like clubs come to you and like, have you got any decent youth players who might perhaps want to come across and play for us? How does this sort of come about?
Yeah, so basically, it just kind of, it's like everything, it kind of evolves. Like our whole journey has been around working with people and partnership with people. And it just opens up doors. And I think if you always be right by people, and you treat people like you like to be treated, and you be upfront and honest with people, then it stands you in good stead, really, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's just like everything, it's just kind of evolved from that, really.
Yeah, and sort of the last sort of thing from me then before just well then the podcast. Where did you come up with the idea to start an online shop for it?
Yeah, because obviously with COVID-19, we need to be thinking of ways to be more financially resilient to lockdowns and shutdowns and stuff. But it actually came about through some of our academy players and parents who were asking, for example, do you have any hats? Do you have any water bottles? Do you have any sort of merchandise and stuff? And then just kind of got us thinking around that. And it's us supporting a local business as well, who's our supplier. So, it's just a win-win for everybody, really.
Yeah, I think that's all that I have for you today. So that's going to end this week's episode of the Benchwarmers Podcast. As usual, I'd like to thank my guest this week, Tom McStravick. Tom, thank you for joining me.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much. There'll be a link down below for the shop and everything like that for Playing for the Future in case anyone wants to go check that out. And we'll see you all next week.